Hello everyone, my name is Kumeh, and I am an attorney at Ume Law Center. I'm a family law attorney, and one of the issues that I never realized that I guess was an issue for most people out there was simply how to get started in your family law case. By family law case, I am talking about custody cases, child support cases, and divorce cases. I never realized that most people just don't know how to begin. If they want to go on this process by themselves, how do they even start with this? So what I want to do is just make a short video about how to get started and where to go. And again, this came to me when I was speaking to one of my clients. So he's been a client for about 2 years now. When I first met him, he was going through a divorce from his wife. He had just recovered, he's still recovering from a car accident he had that left him permanently disabled. So even as we speak right now, he still hasn't even been cleared by his doctor to return to work full time. I think he's right now only allowed to return to work for less than 10 hours a day. Oh, not a day, I'm sorry, 10 hours a week. So as you can imagine, he's seriously disabled. And he really hadn't seen his son since his accident because his wife stopped any sort of contact or access with the minor's son. So I was speaking to him as we were at court waiting for the judge to call us, and we were outside in the hallway, and we were just speaking, and he brought this up, like how he was so frustrated in the beginning because he didn't even know where to go and just how to get started. So I'm just going to go through this semi-brief video with you about this. So the first thing you want to do is go to mdcourts.gov. So one thing I will say about Maryland is that the state has been incredibly great about making sure that regular people have access to the courthouses. They have this wonderful website where you can go and simply get look at all the resources that are provided to you. If you have questions, it's just an incredible website. And one of the things they have on here are court forms. So if you want to file a case, if you want to get started on a case, especially a family case, you go to the website, you hit the courts button, and on here you can see court forms. Okay? You click on that, and as you can see, it comes in different languages: Chinese, French, Korean, Russian. I believe that's Spanish. Yep, Spanish and English. The default is usually English, but you can simply just click on it and you can start looking through the forms. So you have several options. You can search by going through the search button or by going through A through Z and finding your issue. But I'm just going to go through the search button because it'll get me there quickly. So as you can see, I've already looked up 2 forms today: divorce and custody. I'm going to go with custody. It comes first. C comes before D, so I'm just going to go with custody. Okay. So there we go. Click on custody. Click apply. And it should bring up all the custody forms. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So here it goes. You have your standard complaint for custody. You have the instructions. Well, that's the other thing they're good about. They have the forms and then they have the instructions forms, which is really helpful. Where basically forms, instructions. As you can see, you have a petition for modification, child support, foreign judgments. It's just they really do try to keep all the forms on here. So I'm just going to click on the complaint for custody form. As you can see, the first thing, it'll take you to this page, which is basically a PDF that you can fill out. As you can see, the first thing it says here is Circuit Court 4. You pick your county. One thing I will say is that all family cases in Maryland has to be brought through the circuit court. The circuit court for whatever county you live in or whatever county the child lives in. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. You can't file for custody, divorce, child support in the district court. You have to make sure you're in your county circuit court. Okay, so you know what county you live in, so you go ahead and you type this in. I believe there's a drop-down button, so you can just drop down and pick your county. There you go. Yeah. Oh, there we go. So there you go. All the counties are there. You don't need to know where the address is. Most people don't. I know some of the addresses because obviously I have to go there at least once a week. So I have to type it into the GPS. But if you know it, type it in. If you don't, feel free to skip this. If this is a brand new case, you don't have a case number, so you shouldn't worry about entering a case number here. If you're on a modification form, all you need to do is check your old case, find the case number and fill that in. Since this is a new case, keep in mind that whoever is filing the case for the first time is going to be the plaintiff. And whoever is going to have this served on them is going to be the defendant. If this is a modification, then the old parties remain the same parties in the new case. If you're modifying a case, that means the court has already decided on custody in the past, or they already decided on divorce in the past, and you just want the court to modify a certain provision of it. The parties will not change. If you were the defendant in the past, you're going to still be the defendant now. If you were the plaintiff in the past, you're going to still be the plaintiff now. But if this is a brand new case like this that has no case number, then whoever is filing the first complaint will be the plaintiff. And keep in mind, in family cases, it really doesn't matter who files first. That's one question that keeps on coming up. Oh, doesn't matter if I file before the other party. I think the other party's going to file against me. I don't want them to. I want to be first. It makes no difference in the eye of the courts. It really does not. The court's more interested in the details than who ran to the court first. That's just the honest truth about that. Okay, so this form tends to be pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go through some things that some people might have hangups about. The first thing that is very important is the defendant's role. You do need to have an address because once you fill this out and you take it to the courts, they're going to ask you to send the other party a copy of this. And then you have to come back to the court with proof that you sent the other party a copy of this. So you're going to need to know where to send the copy of your complaint to. So you need to know this. This is very important, the address of the opposing party. Okay. So you come down here and you start with number 1. Well, you start with the I statement first. I, Kosei, I'm using myself, represent that number 1. So number 1 is you're going to check the box for either being the father or the mother, and you're going to, if you're not the father or the mother, or you're the grandfather or guardian aunt, you just type that in here. And then here you have 6 boxes, and these 6 boxes you can put in the name of the minor child or children, and you put in their birth dates. If you have more than 6 children, I suggest just drawing an arrow to the back of the page so that the court knows there's going to be more in the back. But again, it's pretty simple there. The defendant, you have to tell the court what the relationship of the defendant is to the children. You have to let the court know where the children currently live. They need to know the history of these children. And when I tell you the court needs to know the history, they really want to know the history. They especially want to know where the children have lived within the last 5 years. So you just put down, again, they don't need the exact move-in dates and the exact move-out dates. What they're really asking for is the month and year. That will always be enough for the court. The court is reasonable. They understand you don't necessarily check down each precise dates of when things happen. But they do need to keep a timeline so you can give them generalizations. If you moved out in March, simply say March 2018 to whatever the present place is. And then you state who the children lived with during that time. So for questions 5 through 6, what the court is really interested in there is any cases that have involved the children. So this is not the opposing party personal criminal record the court is interested in, or their credit record, or their financial record. The court doesn't. They care, but not at this point. At this point, the court just really needs to know if there have been any other decisions in any other courts about these minor children. Okay, so here's one. So for number 8, it asks for why you believe is in the best interest of your children for you to have custody of them. So for this one, you can give a generic answer at this point. At the beginning of the case, you can give a generic answer. But So by generic answer, I mean you can simply say it's in the best interest of my children that I have custody because I'm their father, and I believe that fathers are very important to children, and I want them to be raised in the same way I was raised. That's good enough at this point. But I need you to begin to, like, I always tell my clients, begin to think about this now, simply because this is going to become very important in case you do have to go to trial. You're going to need to give the court a good reason of why they should be able to grant you what you're asking for. Okay. And then, here goes this part. For these reasons, I request the court does this. So this part is really important. This is basically the top part. Everything above this is basically telling the court the background of the case. Everything below this is telling the court what you want out of this. Why are you filing this? So are you asking for physical custody, sole or joint physical custody of the children? That's what the court needs to know. So in Maryland, joint physical custody is defined as whether or not you spend 128 nights, not days, with your children. Do the children or will the children be sleeping in your house for at least 128 days out of the year? If the answer is yes to that, then you're seeking joint custody. If the answer is yes to that, and if they're sleeping 128 nights in your place, and they're sleeping at least 128 nights in the opposing party's place, then you're asking for joint custody. But if you're asking that the children spend less than 128 nights in the opposing party's house, then you're asking for sole custody. Legal custody. So this is legal custody. Again, you can either ask for sole legal custody or you can ask for joint legal custody. And legal custody, you're basically asking the court for the right to make decisions the right to make decisions about the children's medical, education, and religion. Those are there are other things, but those are the three big things the courts focus on in legal custody. Who's going to make those decisions about them? Because again, knock on wood, if your child does get into an accident, the court does not expect the doctors to wait for both parties to fight about what's going to happen to the child. Somebody needs to make that decision. Can you two make that decision together? Or are you one of those people who are always constantly fighting with the opposing party, and therefore the court needs to make one person responsible for making all decisions about the children? And here, if you're only seeking visitation with children, really, if your only issue is just visitation with the children, put that down here. Or if you want the grandparents to have visitation with the children, put that down here. And if you don't want any visitations with the opposing party, put that down there. So here goes the other things. So here the court wants to know, do you also want the opposing party to pay for health insurance and child support? In Maryland, one party does have to pay for health insurance. The court doesn't really care which party pays for it, so long as one party is paying for it. And then for child support, the court does require that at least, they don't require a party pays for child support. Child support in Maryland is really just determined by the child support guidelines. But if you do think that you deserve child support, or you're in a situation where you do need the money to raise your child effectively, then you could go ahead and ask the court for child support. But it is important that you know what it is you're seeking before you even go to court. Because if you don't ask for it, there's no way the court is going to give it to you. Anything you need, feel free to put it down here. Anything you would like the court to do, put it down here. As you can see, the court gives you this little blank space to add anything else you want to add to this. So that's how anyone in Maryland can go ahead and file for custody or divorce or child support if they need to. As I said, there's so many forms on this website. You simply just click on it. You type in the name of the form you're looking for and you click on it. One thing I will advise, can't really advise you, but one thing I always do whenever I file a case with the court, I always make 3 copies of it. The original copy I submit to the form. Then I keep one of the copies for myself, and then by law I am required to mail the other copy to the opposing party. So if you are thinking about going on this on your own, this is just something you should keep in mind. After you fill out this form, make sure you make 3 copies.